one of the recent things I've heard is that he was surrendering.
There are reports and rumors of him basically giving up and being shot anyway. El Maya was taken by the Americans alive because of his value. El Mencho was killed by the Mexicans because of what he knows. There's no way you can get close to this man, or could get close to this man by land. It almost seems like he had an agreement with the federal government, which he left written proof of.
It's been almost a month since Mexican drug lord El Mencho was ambushed and killed by federal agents outside of his safe house in Jalisco, Mexico. And as expected, the online rumors and conspiracy theories have been endless. Mencho's not really dead. It was the American Navy SEALs who killed him. His mistress turned him in, etc., etc. So to get a more clear understanding of what most likely happened that day and who was behind it, I thought who better to talk to than former Mexican federal agent himself, Ed Calderon. Ed lays out what really happened that day and exposes the highest levels of the Mexican deep state as the ones behind this assassination. That's right, they were never planning on arresting Mencho. Buckle up, this will blow your mind. The one and only Ed Calderon, right here on The Connect with Johnny Mitchell.
What's up, everybody? The legend Ed Calderon is with us today. He probably gives the best breakdown of anybody that I've heard on the internet so far about what really happened to Mencho. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know you have some opinions on this, so drop them in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and turn on the alert bell. It really helps us out. Thank you so much, you guys. Enjoy. Ed Calderon.
You did get a nice little tan. Actually, I could see it.
We were on the beach. We were in the DR, dude, interviewing a head down there. Boy,
are
they moving a lot of work out of that island?
No. The ocean is safe. It's the Gulf of America now.
Well, I'll tell you what. Striking Iran.
Yeah.
Go. They're like a third base. Yeah, round it in, dude. Yeah, they're like a third base coach. Go.
Es Navidad is something I've heard. It's Navidad.
Es Navidad. Gracias a Dios. Nos regaló. But that's proof, like, you know, the Lord taketh away, but then he giveth again.
Yeah.
Because I do think trafficking, well, you tell me what you think, because you see them moving the satellite defense systems out of South Korea. They're moving it all to Israel, and everything is going to the Middle East. So you got to assume that probably some drug interdiction resources are moving away, or do you think it's all? Do you think that actually really puts a dent in law enforcement in the Caribbean? What's going on in Iran?
I mean, I think there's some naval assets that are pretty essential that the United States doesn't have a lot of. Although we would like to think that movies are real and that we can fight the Transformers and aliens and Al Qaeda all at the same time across the globe. Probably not so. But you do see kind of the first direct action on the ground U.S. military assets working in Ecuador as the Iranian incidents is happening, and you're seeing some stuff that is kind of first of its kind as far as the era. Mm-hmm. Boots on the ground. Some giant cocaine factories being blown up by the U.S. military working with the Ecuadorians, because apparently the Sinaloa cartel and the New Generation cartel had their own factions down there fighting it out. But yeah, you do see some sort of diminishment as far as military assets in the Pacific and the Atlantic side of things, and people are saying it's Navidad right now. Things are getting through.
It's snowing, baby. Hey, it's 90 degrees in Austin, but it's snowing. South by Southwest, dude, it's gonna be snowing. They love their cocaine here in Texas.
One of the things that people need to kind of realize as well, with all the movement going on, there was a major decapitation on the Pacific side. They do hold control over all the way over to the Gulf. But there's a lot of new players, and there's a lot of security features that some of these organizations have to keep new guys from doing their thing that aren't in play right now. So it's, innovation, new people. It's
very exciting.
it's a very exciting time apparently right now.
I'm very excited for, the next drug lord, the ascendant. There's got to be somebody that's ascending.
I don't think it's going to be. So this is what I think. If people want to look at what I'm referencing, rotten.mx, just rotten.mx. It's a website. It leads you to a Telegram account that we run. And it is basically a bunch of horrible videos that we can't post anywhere else. That's where they go.
Rotten.mx. Okay.
There is a video of the new generation cartel that is decapitated right now. So I don't know why they're operating, executing a bunch of people in Veracruz, because they are now moving into that region and they're about to kill all the extortionists and all the abductors, the same propaganda that they always kind of say. So they're very much expanding, which shouldn't be the case if you just decapitated such a large organization like that. But it's apparently off and running to the races, so nothing really changed.
Kind of like the Ayatollah getting smoked. Just bring up the next one. Hey, everybody take one step forward.
I think in this case, it's one of the things I've always kind of like said about specifically that cartel is that they're exhibiting a lot of things that are very reminiscent of the Colombian FARC units when they started kind of getting originated. They're very much turning themselves into like a counterinsurgency type thing. You saw the killing of their figurehead, and their response was very reminiscent of a disruptive insurgency force across the country. And after they quieted down because they saw they were turning the local populace against them, now they're targeting high-level members of Morena because they're saying that their agreements with them weren't met. Right? So
you're referring to the Morena party.
Yeah, Morena party.
The Morena political party, for our audience.
And we went from having the president of Mexico shaking hands and just being out with the peoples the day of the operation with against El Mencho, to now her having a contingency of special operations around her.
Right.
So there's something to be said about the change that I think more than anything, I think they're changing their approach. I think they're going to turn into a revolutionary group probably pretty soon.
Right. Okay. So great. Let's talk about the raid. Let's talk about what happened, because people get very angry when you post a fun conspiracy video online and they think they got the scoop. They're like, no. My third cousin went to school with Mencho, and I can tell you for a fact he's alive.
Okay.
So let's start with that. Let's start with that kooky conspiracy.
Sure.
Is Mencho alive in Guam living with Tupac?
Well, let's start off by saying, like, dude, I don't know anything. All I know is what they tell me every now and then,
Yeah.
I was somebody that was saying that he was alive when a lot of people were saying that he was dead and he didn't exist. Why? Because I know people in Jalisco and Colima and in that area, and all of them are like, oh yeah, he's very much alive. They'll kill you if they take a picture of him, or he was at that stadium, or he was at that concert. You would hear these things like he's very much alive. And now he is very much dead, right? The whole is he alive, is he dead thing, I think he probably utilized that throughout his life as a pretty interesting weapon. The whole he's sick. We didn't see any evidence of him being on dialysis. We saw him that he was taking a lot of medication for certain maladies, but probably not dialysis. So there was a lot of things around. He wasn't even named Nemesio. Nemesio was not his name. They added that at some point, apparently, when his death certificate doesn't contain the name Nemesio. So, yeah, a lot of things were found out after his death, and he is very much dead. The reaction that we saw across the country is not something you would see because they killed an imaginary person.
Right, right. Wow, that's incredible. What was his name then? Ruben?
Basically, the Nemesio part was added.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you see that video that came out of him drinking a beer driving?
Yes, and like I have a lot of people trying to verify that video. The only thing about that video that seems to be very real is that giant gold chain on his wrist.
That and Ed, what kind of beer is he drinking?
Oh, Tecate Light. Dude.
To me, that's where I was like, oh, this is real. That's real. If you know anything about the cartels, that's their beer of choice. Not Tecate, Tecate Light, because they like to be healthy. They like to keep their carbs to a minimum.
They want to drink a beer that they can drink the whole day. Is what I've heard.
That makes sense.
That's what they Tecate Light is about. No, I was a drunk. I would drink fucking Tecate Roja, tall can, manga larga, the one that's like the size of your, you know. That's what I like to drink. But used to like to drink. But yeah, the gold chain and that Tecate, that's probably El Mencho driving around without a care in the world.
Gangster. But he's dead. So I was kind of just kidding about that. I think every reasonable person knows that you can't fake that, and they wouldn't have basically tried to cause a civil war if he hadn't actually been killed. Let's unpack this piece by piece now. One of the recent things I've heard is that he was surrendering. Like, he wasn't in a shootout. He had given himself up, and they smoked him anyways. What's your take on that?
So again, all I can speak of is what I've heard. And if people can, I don't know, there is no evidence of a prolonged firefight on, in or around the house that is allegedly his, or the house that he was utilizing as a safe house. There were a few people there from the media showing up to her house holding bullets in their hands, saying like, oh, they fired these bullets inside of this house, but there's no damage. It's because the previous reporter that was there grabbed them from the outside, brought them inside, left them on a countertop, and then you got this whole, whatever. What probably happened, and this is something that I've tried to figure out because of the nature of who he is and where he was. This is a mountain. This is like a pine area, forested area, a lot of high value, high network cabins there. He was probably there with a small contingency of his direct security forces, which, tracks with some of the weaponry that he said they found there. RPGs, which is something that he's known for, being able to take down helicopters. So they found a few Russian RPGs on a tree, stuck against a tree outside. A few very specialized rifles that only special operations has or contracted to have in the military in the United States were found in the event. I don't think they were dropped there by anybody. I think these cartel guys had them for their defense. There's no way you can get close to this man, or could get close to this man by land. He has concentric rings of security around him. Scouts. By the ledgers that he left behind, we see that he was paying the state, the local, and the federal police, as well as the military. So there's no way you can get near him by land in any way, shape, or form with enough numbers to get him without people seeing it. So there's a lot of stories about how they tracked him down there. They're saying that it was a female that led him, significant other that led him to him. They're saying that American drones were utilized for this, which I've kind of think is very, very true. At some point during the night and the operation of them tracking him down to that point, a thermal image of a man walking out of that house and hugging the female outside was the go-ahead that they needed. There's nobody who's going to hug that woman in a very familiar way. So that I think that's what I keep hearing among circles, that's how they figured that he was really there. He was smart enough to always keep himself under a roof. But that kind of gave him away when he went outside and said goodbye to this person. That's what I've kind of gathered from this.
And so that woman did set him up then, or she just happened to be there?
I think they were working signals intelligence on her. I think they were tracking her, and I think Mencho was pretty safe in the knowledge that he was paying enough people to not worry about it. I think that's what I saw. He was they're not gonna come and get me. I'm paying everybody off. Right. I have all these agreements. I don't think they're gonna get me.
And because he was so out in the open, like he was in like cabins that wealthy
he had
people,
neighbors.
He had neighbors. It was like a big resort kind of like what Americans would be. There'd be a golf course if it was America.
Aspen. He was in Aspen.
There you go. He was in Aspen, right? With the rich Jalisqueños surrounding him. He wasn't in the mountains, which is wild. No. So he really felt like he had the shit on lock.
It almost seems like he had an agreement with the federal government, which he left written proof of there, right? So at some point during the night, and again, this is all hearsay, at some point in the night, probably from a high altitude, members of the Mexican Army Special Operations community dropped in from the sky. This is something that they've displayed a few times before in certain operations. I think they jumped in to get El Chapo's son as well. This is a capability that they realize it's a high value skill and a high value way of approaching some of these guys, because on the ground they're pretty hard to get. So it's something they've been developing for a while. They probably dropped in at some point during the night, and the skirmish was probably very clear outside of the property. El Mencho took a small contingency of his bodyguards and then made a run for it and tried to get into the mountainous hillside behind the property. There are reports and rumors of him basically giving up and being shot anyway, which prompted the Mexican federal government to like have a press conference specifically about that, which is pretty interesting. You know, why would you have a press conference over something that didn't happen? But apparently at some point during this event, he was held at gunpoint. And again, this is some people are saying this. I have no idea, but some people are saying that he basically gave himself up and was subsequently shot or killed there on the spot. Other people are saying that he was engaged in a firefight along with his bodyguards against the Mexican Special Operations guys who were trying to grab him, and he received several impacts on his thoracic area, which led him to be medevaced out of the area towards further medical management somewhere in Guadalajara. And along the way, he perished. And they switched flight plans to Mexico City to verify the body through biometrics by the Americans, which happened later on that I think later on that day, if not the next day, the verification came from the Americans as far as the body. As this was going on, his men radioed out and alerted everybody about the fact that the los federales were there. There's again, there's a lot of nicknames out there, and I have a lot of head injuries, and I don't remember all of them. El Tuli was a high-level operative, I think, for El Mencho. He was basically their communications guy. While the operation had concluded and kind of people were figuring out that El Mencho was dead, El Tuli was on a hillside somewhere in Jalisco, basically radioing out instructions to every single new generation cartel loyal cell to basically burn Oxxos or anything that could be disruptive. They targeted American gasoline companies because they had this idea that would affect the Americans. Oxxos, because they have this idea that the Morena party has some sort of stake in them. And burning roads, blocking roads and burning all over the country where they have any sort of sway or power. if you overlap the map of the theoretical map where they have sway or power and you put it where the fires were, it's like a perfect lay. So like if anybody had any doubts about those maps, and it seemed to me and to anybody observing this that the Mexican government had absolutely no preparation for this at the highest levels. The president of Mexico was like was basically doing her normal thing. You know, she wasn't in a bunker. She wasn't in a situation room somewhere. She was just doing her own thing. And this operation seemed to have come out of nowhere. It's an odd series of events as far as how it went after the initial event.
All right, quick shout out to the sponsor of today's episode, Current. Current is a banking app that helps you get more out of your paycheck. One feature a lot of people love is their Paycheck Advance service. Once you qualify, you can get up to $750 of your paycheck in advance, which is actually about 50% more than the competition. If you need instant access, that's also available for a small fee. Current also has tools designed to help you build your credit safely. Their Visa Secured Charge Card, the Build Card, helps you build credit without piling on debt. In fact, Current users have seen their credit go up an average of 80 plus points in about 6 months. And that's separate from some of the other features in the app, including fee-free overdraft for up to $200, getting paid up to 2 days faster with direct deposit, and up to a 4% bonus on your savings, which is about 10 times the national average. Plus, they've got a 24/7 live support, which is rare these days. It's usually AI, some robot somewhere. So if you want to check it out, get Current. Sign up at current.com/Johnny Mitchell and use my promo code Johnny Mitchell, that's 2 N's in Johnny, to get $50 and unlock tools like a paycheck advance, credit building, and much, much more. Terms and conditions do apply. Who could have given the order? If Sheinbaum didn't know this was happening, President Claudia Sheinbaum, who could have given the order? Was it Harfouche?
So, again, two things I've heard on the grapevine, and you tell me which sounds the most believable. One, Harfouche and Claudia Sheinbaum knew about the event. Both of them were not in a safe place and or a position where you would be after taking out Mexico's biggest cartel head. I mean, it doesn't track in my mind. You know, maybe they were just like going through the motions to try and deceive or not to have anybody aware of what was going to happen. That doesn't track to me. Or the Mexican army and the Mexican military independently chose to do this.
How could that? How is that possible? Like, how do they have the authority to do that?
That's the power behind the throne in Mexico. The Mexican military is a ginormous power. And again, you know, we can go back a few years and see how they were completely complicit in some of the huachicol stuff and fuel stuff and all that.
Just to interrupt for people that should check that out if they're interested. It was basically like Mexico's version of WikiLeaks, right?
They discovered that the Mexican military, along with the Mexican Marina, the Marines, were basically stealing fuel by the millions for a whole presidency with Andrés Manuel López Obrador. And within these fuel deposits that they were shipping and stealing and moving about the country, you know, they had some new generation cartel high-tech weaponry that they brought in from Northern Africa into Mexico. Wow. So there's a bunch of links there.
That is fascinating. You guys are run literally by the military. Mexico is ran by the generals, not really by the president.
I think they have enough power to do something like this. Like, hey, we're just going to eliminate this guy before he's, you know, before anything, before he decides to invite Sean Penn over.
Yeah, I think Leonardo DiCaprio wanted to come down this time.
Yeah, before he has anybody like coming down to like talk about some of the stuff he knows, and again, you saw the reaction across the country.
Yeah,
and then you saw the communications that they were issuing through their WhatsApp groups of, hey, the government hasn't met their end of the bargain apparently, so we're gonna set everything on fire. That was the reaction they had. Didn't have like, oh, they got our guy.
Right.
No, it was El Culiacanazo, but at a nationwide scale.
It was like they betrayed us.
Yeah. It's like, hey, dude, we're paying you. What are you doing? You know?
Man.
We're homies.
Did you not get the last payment?
Yeah. And you know, again, this people should like track some of this. We saw many, I think over 40 federal police officers were killed in the subsequent attacks during this event. Were they killed during the subsequent attacks, or were they killed during the event?
I mean, that's a great question.
I don't know.
Why would you like they were killed during the event because perhaps they were guarding Senor Mencho?
These are questions being issued by people out there.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because I wondered why it was, and when you say federales, it was the National Guard. They were specifically the ones being targeted. And we go ahead.
We talked last time we talked. There was like the attempted arrest of. Last time we talked about they almost caught El Mencho. I think we talked about this.
Yeah.
Where he had National Guard units protect him. Those were the guys that slowed down his pursuits. So
that's right.
A lot of hazy things. Some of these kids were caught up. When I say kids, because some of these National Guard unit members were kids. Were caught up in ambushes after the event again, which is also horrible because they weren't warned and there was no preparation at all for them. They were just left to their devices after this operation, which is also bad. But there's some things that aren't tracking to anybody that kind of observes this event. This decapitation occurred in a host city for the World Cup.
Yeah.
Like near in the host state and near a host city for the World Cup. We saw dudes with AK-47s shooting up planes where all the people are going to fly in for the World Cup at the airport. So let's say you and me are Harfouche and Claudia Sheinbaum. Would we decide to do this operation during such a key moment in our? No, right?
Right. This is the Copa Mundo. This is like we're a real country now. We're an international country. We need good press. I mean, capturing Mencho, I guess it would be good press, but not in this way. No. Like the whole government seemed just as surprised as the cartel.
No. So if you're like Mexican Alex Jones or something, pedophile priest and all that,
sacerdote de pedofilia,
sacerdote de pedofilia, las ranas son gay. If you're that like a conspiracy theorist, like, well, I mean, I wouldn't think them as politicians would choose to have such an operation this close to such an event on one end. And on the other end, the military would probably be well served silencing their biggest partner in the region before more things were found about their relationship. Because now that's the whole thing. The Mexican military, La Marina, they're all under a giant microscope right now.
And that makes sense when you look at the fact, I believe that a bunch of Navy SEALs had just entered Mexico a few days before the raid, right?
There was a cargo plane mysteriously landing there. It was supposedly something about transport and stuff like that. I don't know. Might have been a Reaper drone in one of those things. There are some SEALs coming down, which is a very regular thing. Like they do trading with foreign forces, but maybe maybe some of them were the ones that jumped in. I don't know. If you look at high altitude jumps of this nature, Def Group from the SEALs or maybe Delta are the ones that are capable of doing something like this. But I don't see them. I don't see it. I don't see the United States sending an elite unit here to eliminate El Mencho. I see the Mexican military seeing their chance, asking the U.S. for some air assets to verify, and then eliminating one of their business partners. Maybe I don't know, or eliminating this threat to public safety in Mexico.
Well, definitely the Americans would want the arrest because you want the headlines.
Yes. And also we saw the subsequent reaction by the Americans through Trump, which is we were very much involved. And the Mexicans were like, well, you kind of did something, but not that much. So you could see how, think about it. It is the biggest cartel head, next to El Mayo. So you would think, El Mayo was taken by the Americans alive because of his value. El Mencho was killed by the Mexicans because of what he knows.
That's right.
I think that's what I would think. Also, another thing that people need to really pay attention to. You just jumped in from a high altitude or somehow materialized yourself in the compound of the world's most dangerous and influential drug trafficker. And you chase him outside, you kill him because he defended himself or whatever, and then you just leave? And you leave one of the biggest information treasure troves of any cartel head in recent history just lying out there for these narco reporters to just walk in I'm reading El Mencho's diary. Why would you leave all that there? I worked in law enforcement for about 12 years, specifically against organized crime. The site exploitation of that area, we would have left that house ransacked. Anything with paper, anything with a battery, we would be looking for through the walls to see if we would find a gold stash or something, dude. But no, they just. They achieved their objective, and that's all they wanted. And they just left the compound with everything in it. No federal prosecution office came in to cordon off the area, which means that the military isn't talking to them.
Right.
No, dude.
Yeah.
Again, people are just walking into this house.
Right. It's there's no tape around it. There's no crime scene. It's just Luis Chaparro there just picking the lock, dude.
Yeah, not even that. The door was open. People were being let in.
It's crazy.
You see all these reporters that are reading his ledgers.
Yeah.
A few things we learned. Man, it sucks being a fucking Sicario. Apparently, it's fucking.
You can make more working at an OXXO. He was paying his soldiers in the ledger they found less than the minimum wage in Mexico.
Yes, so
that's a bummer, dude.
That's pretty bad. And also you saw he was paying the federal police.
Yeah.
Where's the swarm of arrest after this event? I've been keeping an eye on this. I know people in Guardia Nacional, and I know people in Secretaría de Seguridad Pública Federal, and there's nothing. There's no high level arrest of anybody in Guardia Nacional that I've managed to see. Maybe they're doing it in secret or something. But there was long ass ledgers. He was very much safe there.
Yeah.
He was surprised. He was like, holy shit, these guys are actually trying to do this.
Well, did you hear the recording of him? Was that real? Do you see that recording of him on X that's bouncing around? You don't think that was real?
I don't think it's real.
Where he's cussing out the woman. He's saying, I'm going to fuck it. What was her name? Whatever the influencer was that he was banging. Yeah. She betrayed me. I'm going to kill her. Hasta sus puta perros. I loved how he cussed, dude. Anybody that wants to hear like really cool Mexican Spanish, listen to him talk. It's pretty awesome.
Listen to his original recording when he called the Guadalajara police commander.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, hey, it's Mencho way. Soy Mencho
way. Cálmase en su pinche perros. Ya tenemos todos ubicados.
Yeah, basically,
he said, we have all of your guys located.
Yeah. Like, just chill. But basically, he calls the head of the police and tells him to chill the fuck out.
Yeah.
Or else he's going to kill all of them. And they do.
Yeah,
because that was his power. He didn't. I think he was. That was the first and last time we probably saw a video recording of his voice. He was very aware of the fact that was probably a mistake.
Right. So then the question is, why do you think now, if we're going to assume with very good conjecture that this was a hit and not an arrest, why did the generals feel like now they had to do it? Could it have been, rumors were flying around online that he was getting ready to make a deal with the government to save his son who's doing life in an American prison? What do you think about that?
I mean, you again, we've seen the strife within the Mexican government that El Mayo Zambada's arrest and Maduro flight to New York has caused them, right? It is something they blame the Americans for the violence in Culiacan because of this arrest. So I think when I'm looking at all this, I'm taking a few things into account. The fact that the Mexican military apparatus at all levels is currently under very high scrutiny. When we saw a voice recording of a high level admiral talking to the head of the Marina about what was going on with all the fuel theft, and then he got shot. So that's going on in the background of this. Wow. We saw the traditionally uncorruptible Marina that was used for the Chapo raid now turn into one of the most corrupt institutions that the military has, because apparently they were smuggling not only fuel but firearms for the New Generation Cartel. This is something that is already out there. God. So that was going on in the background.
That's wild.
That's going on in the background. Those are investigations that are going on in the background. That's going on in the background. And if you're going to move any sort of fuel or stuff through any of these ports in this area, you would assume that probably the New Generation Cartel has some sort of deals with it. So I think it's very suspicious that this hit happened after the amount of noise that was being screamed around the military's involvement with organized crime.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, and I think the Maduro raid, I think the heat has just been enormous. So, the top generals might have looked at this and been like,
cut all ties.
Yeah.
It's time. Mm-hmm. That's me being Alex Juanes. Las ranas son gays. Las ranas.
Estamos controlados de un cabal de pedofilios.
Pedofilios alienígenas en la luna. Dude, this is something I've heard echoed across. I'm not the only one saying this. But this is something you hear echoed by a few people out there. Is it a good thing? I would say yes, but nothing has changed. And if people think anything has changed, go to rotten.mx and see a video that the same organization just posted as they're making their way into Veracruz.
And this is not rotten.com for all you Gen X and millennials. This is not Tub Girl. This is not rotten.com. This is rotten.mx, the Telegram group.
Yeah, rotten.com MX will take you to a link to Telegram. And it's where we post most of the horrible shit.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Betterhelp. Shout out to my shrink, the world's #1 online therapy platform, Betterhelp. They've got over 30,000 qualified therapists, so you can cut out the physicality of having to go see a shrink in person. We all know what a nightmare that is. You got to put your clothes on. You got to get in your car. You got to find someone. You got to go to a brick and mortar. You got to pay more money, and you got to gamble on the hope that you're actually going to get along with this therapist. And how many people who've been in therapy know that that's very, very hard to do? BetterHelp makes that so easy. If you don't like your therapist or you don't jibe with them at first, BetterHelp will transfer you to another qualified therapist at no additional charge, anonymously, seamlessly, to where you can just ghost your therapist. They'll pick a new one for you, and somebody who best fits your need. And they have therapists in all different walks of psychology, which is amazing, right? Like, I got my own basket of issues, and BetterHelp paired me with the person that I've been with now for years. So I cannot recommend them enough. BetterHelp has more than 6 million people worldwide with an average of 4.9 out of 5 rating for live sessions, and that's from 1.7 million client reviews. They're the best in the business. They're the only ones, as far as I'm concerned, in the business. And your emotional well-being matters. Find support and feel lighter in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/connect. That's betterhelp.com/connect. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, my longtime partner, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, the only way I fire on action. The playoff push is heating up and tournament hoops are here. That's right. It's the best month of the year, March Madness. And there's no better way to cash in on action than on PrizePicks. Remember, it's just you versus the stats. 2 to 6 player projections. That's it. And they make it super easy to win. I promise you, if I can do it, you can do it. And now they've got Team Picks, which is a brand new market in the app. So on top of the player picks you already know, you can now make selections on game winners, spreads, and totals as well. It is like a no-brainer on this thing. And the cool thing about Team Picks is that they're available in 35 states, including Texas. So everything happens right inside the same PrizePicks app. So you can play with your friends. It's a lot of fun. You guys can plot the come up. Download the PrizePicks app today and pick your first game winner, spread, or total as the playoff push rolls on, and get $50 in daily fantasy lineups when you play your first $5 lineup when you use code CONNECT. That's code CONNECT, CONNECT, to get $50 in daily fantasy lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right, damn it. So, I mean, Mencho was a mean guy. Wasn't a very nice guy. That's for sure.
Let's. I'm going to say this. He was very well loved. He probably was a nightmare for his enemies, but the amount of love and legit, I don't know, demonstrations of devotion seen during his funeral lead me to believe that he was very much a hero for at least the people around him and the people in the community that he benefited.
Yeah.
So
I believe that for sure.
Which, again, puts us into weird territory where eventually one of these guys is going to be like, it's going to be a martyr, and it's going to awaken something in some of these communities, maybe. Like, I think it already has. I think they're very much viewing themselves as under attack by a corrupt federal government.
Wow.
And, that's how you start an insurgency, like a true insurgency.
Right. Getting back to what you were saying, like, you think this could spiral into something like what the FARC was in Colombia. It's not, of course, drug trafficking is the economy behind it, and a lot of other crimes, but it's a political movement now. Yeah,
they localize. They stop doing their international shenanigans, and they localize, and they start becoming a guerrilla force in the region, and they politicize. They already have political candidates that won, and there are in the Morena party and other parties. So all they do is like, well, now we're going to fight corrupt elements of the government, targeted killings.
Do you think that the rural and small town Mexico, like the community we went to on the ranch, where the CJNG used to train and is now training again. Do you think that shout out to that guy, dude?
Bro, they like there a few videos came out of that specific place where we were hanging out.
Are you serious? Oh, Jesus Christ.
Of them amassing their convoys.
Boy, do we have good timing with that, dude.
Dude, let's not go back there.
No, we will not. But do you think they, like, because all we hear about is like how the middle class is growing in Mexico and Shane Baum has record favorability numbers and the minimum wage is rising and people have been, there's less poor people now than there are people in the middle class. But do you think those small communities in Mexico, those are still more loyal to the cartel than they are to the government?
Yeah, and like we're seeing changes in places like Sinaloa where the fight has been so bad and they're so degraded that the benefits and the cons versus the benefits are now being outweighed. Yeah, but not in some of the regions where the 4-letter organization works. I mean, like again, if people are doubting this, look up El Mencho's grave site right now. It is covered in flowers. So I think they are very well liked and protected, and there's no way an organization of that size can survive without the people around it protecting it. Mm-hmm. So, I think some of these aspects of Mexico and its changes are not touching most of these people who are living in these rural areas.
Yeah, I'm sure he was, clearly he was a romantic. The guy was still banging Dash at 60 with a bad kidneys. He is a Mexican man after all. But his organization really, what they do to people. They disintegrate them in acid. They light them on fire with flamethrowers, unless that's AI. And I know he doesn't make every decision, right? But,
yeah,
I mean, it kind of makes my skin crawl a little bit. He was not a good guy.
Yeah, but again, we can say that, but he still has a giant grave covered in flowers, and many people were crying along the route, and that is not the reality of the people around him. A lot of the people around him. So. Yeah. We have to take that into account, I guess. Yes. I think for me, more than anything, it's all the missing people posters that we saw in downtown Guadalajara. I think that it's like a zombie movie.
Yeah.
I think that is the evil side of whatever this is.
Yes, that's what I mean, right? Like, do you think that, so the Mexican homicide rate, they say it's like the lowest that it's been in recorded history. I just read that. Do you think, but you see the disappearances are some of the highest that it's been in a long time. Do you think do you think the homicide rate's actually coming down, or do you think it's been offset by these bodies that have been buried?
I think the federal government is actively targeting all these groups that are looking for bodies and stopping them. That's one. Because they don't like those numbers being with. I think some of those numbers that we're seeing are not, dude, I used to work for the government. Those numbers are skewed. So no.
Are you saying they could get stats wrong in Mexico?
Oh, they just, he just changed the wording, Was it a disappearance? Was it a forced disappearance? Right. Was there violence? Are they just gone? What age group were they? Oh, they're 40 and up. Well, that could be anything. Could be, immigration but they're young. Oh, this could be organized. So it's
spread it out so it doesn't just spread it out.
I don't trust any of those numbers that the government espouses. From my perspective, and from the hundreds of people that I have all around Mexico sending me horrible videos of shit that happened, and information about some of the stuff that's going on. I don't see any of that. I mean, recently there was an operation called Operation Vacanora, and they basically took out El Mayo Zambada operatives from Sonora, Sinaloa, and Baja. It was a pretty big operation, coordinated one. They took a bunch of lugartenientes, lieutenants, people who were like in charge of shit in the areas. So it seems to be like a concentrated effort by Harfouche and the federal government to like do shit, to step it up, because we're heading to the World Cup and everything needs to be safe, and the illusion of safety has to be there. But
right.
But then there's videos like the one I just posted. So I don't know. I think it's the government is living in a different reality than most Mexicans.
Now, what does this do with Mencho gone? Does that dissolve the relationship that they had, the alliance they had with the Chapiza? No. Not at all.
Jardinero's still alive. The guy that is in charge of that specific alliance is still alive, and they're still issuing collected conjoined statements against the El Mayo band in Sinaloa. So I don't think anything's changed on that realm. There are a lot of rumblings as far as who's going to be the next one. We're not going to see like a true, like, I'm the guy. I think in probably a year, when everything settles and when we see exactly who was left with enough to have power over the rest. There's probably like 5 or 6 big cells out there. There's rumors of some of them turning coat and going and allying themselves with La Maíza, specifically some of the older factions in places like Colima. And again, everything you hear a lot of stuff around Colima and centered around Colima. It's because of the giant port there, which in the past,
the port of Manzanillo.
Yeah, which in the past everybody thought it was like, oh, it's all about the drugs and all the shit coming through the port, but it's also about the oil theft and huachicol shit going through that port, which dwarfs any sort of illicit drug market money being made by anybody.
Hey, I know a region of the world that could really use some oil right now. So,
dude.
So, maybe that, I mean, who knows? If they don't get oil, the black market will always fill gaps in the world, in the market. The black market will always step up. So that is a possibility. You could see smuggled oil going to the Middle East from Mexico.
Or like all the cartels saying like, hey, this drug bullshit. Let's get into oil.
Right.
Let's get into the oils, I guess, which they have been doing for decades now. It's just, I don't know. I think what I'm seeing is this shift from they're aware that eyes are in the sky. And when they say they, I mean criminal organizations and Mexican federal government. So they can't hide shit. They're aware that they have people listening. So, this seems like they're trying to cover their tracks. And they're trying to, solve everything before we get to a stage where, the United States is done with Iran and, maybe they want to make Mexico great again or whatever.
Well, that's a great segue because, okay, so say that I think we're going to be pulled in. I think if we really go boots on the ground in Iran, it's going to probably forever change the United States. But say they pull out in like a month. There's some code, they lie. They say, yeah, we won, blah, blah, blah. Do you think they'll turn the ferocity because they can't win on the world stage anymore? Do you think they'll turn the power of the U.S. military onto, well, definitely Cuba looks like it's next. They could do that before. They could do that in the morning and be back for lunch. But do you think, because you've been prophesizing for years now that it's going to be some kind of military incursion into Mexico from the U.S., do you think that this raises that probability?
Yes. I think I don't know. The intention of the United States and the powers that be seem to be securing a continental security apparatus around itself. By this, I mean energy. By this, I mean influence, minerals, and security. And that's what you're seeing. And some people are not invited to that party. And whoever isn't invited to that party in whatever countries they lead are on the list, in my mind. Now, you have Mexico, which is a very complex place. And again, I'm not advocating military intervention in Mexico. Some people online think I'm like, hey, you just want the Americans to come in. I don't want the Americans to come in because I've seen what that looks like in other parts of the world. I think at some point the United States is realizing that it has to plug in its industrial plant somewhere. Mm-hmm. And it's already there in Mexico. What Mexico doesn't have is security guarantees for the people and the companies wanting to set up a Tesla plant in Monterrey or wanting to set up an electric vehicle plant somewhere in northern Mexico. They don't have that ability to guarantee security. So what are they going to do? You know,
I don't know.
I'd say they're probably going to run a contingent, a giant convoy of people from Pendleton all the way down to Baja. They're going to set up a staging area all down the Baja Peninsula and fly operations into Mexico proper. And they're probably going to make Mexico Puerto Rico.
Now, do you think... do the politicians have the ability to stop that? I feel like if Harfuge, because you said Harfuge is going to be the next president, right?
Yeah.
Do you think he will become like a Bukele and ally with like super tight with the Americans?
The only way I think Mexico can avert any of this, I think, is a regime change. And we can go, when I say regime change, I mean, again, we've seen the rhetoric of the president of Colombia, and we saw the rhetoric of the president of Venezuela, and then what happened afterwards. And some of the same rhetoric is being said by the current president of Mexico. And we were the last faucet of oil being shut off to the Cubans. Mexico was. Which, you know, puts us on a list.
Right.
Harfush seems to be the perfect candidate. He's all about security. He has successfully led a lot of security operations in Mexico. He apparently is like the guiding force of this new modernization and revampment of the federal police in Mexico. He seems to be the Bukele type character. Mm-hmm. He's not bad looking. Chicks have like meme accounts about the guy not being bad looking.
Yeah.
He's not as leftist, at least in whatever, like his relationship. He's the perfect candidate.
Right.
If I was the Americans, that's who I would want there to work with. Which leads me to think that at some point soon we're probably going to see maybe a soft regime change with him now being set in. And I'm not saying he's a CIA operative, but you know. But
it's a lot easier to be a CIA operative than people think. Like,
oh yeah, dude. Apparently I was a CIA guy. Apparently, you know.
I've known you a long time, Ed, and we've shared some intimate moments, and I still am not certain that you're not.
Maybe, dude, if I am, dude, they need to get somebody in there, human resources.
For sure. This is not the CIA of the John F. Kennedy era.
But you see the amount of people who are kind of rooting for him, and it's across the board. I think if any sort of event is on the horizon, like a military event, you know, I don't know. Like if you are the current administration and you're seeing the writing on the wall as far as the midterms and you know how not liked some of the policies have been and how you weren't supposed to pull us into a war and now we're in a war, and I think. Whatever happens in the next few months as far as Iran is going to dictate probably what happens next.
In Mexico, you mean?
In Mexico.
Wow.
So if it's a prolonged engagement out there, I think we're pretty much, this is off the list for now. But if it isn't, what's the only way you can prolong your stay in office historically?
In Mexico or the U.S.?
In the U.S.
War. That makes sense. Wow.
I don't know. It's a theory. Again,
it doesn't feel like that right now. It feels like this is the end of that old political trick.
Yeah. But
how do Mexican people feel? Like after the raid, how did your sense of how people felt? Were they like, this is a blow to organized crime and Mexico's like turning for the best and yeah, kill those bastards? I mean, I know that the rural communities were crying and throwing flowers, at Mencho's casket and stuff like that. But yeah, how did more ordinary Mexicans feel?
It was viewed with a lot of, you saw a lot of like weird nationalism pop up, which is interesting. A lot of pro-military sentiment popped up. A lot of like, hey, these guys are actually dying, doing some of these things, so we should honor them, I guess. You saw some of that. You saw the clear sign that most Mexicans were aware of, but hadn't really confirmed about how disruptive these organizations could be if they decided to be, Yeah. I mean, they were shooting up airports.
Dude, the damage they caused had to be they probably caused $1 billion worth of damage between the fires and the insurance policies they're going up and
all the gringos vacations ruined. Dude,
yeah, my favorite part, by the way.
Dude. But you see, I think you see, Mexicans are like, the government isn't really in control, apparently. You saw a lot of that. You saw definitely a lot of questions about its ineptitude to respond to the after crisis, and a Mexican federal government scrambling to try and explain away why it wasn't. Oh, we wanted to be secretive about the operation. This, that, but so it means you don't trust your own people in the federal government,
right?
And why aren't you arresting them? So it's nebulous. I think what you're hearing now from the federal government is a constant, like, it's safe, everything's changing. Come to the World Cup, everything's fine. There was like a special forces general guy on the president's morning news briefing explaining how they were going to keep everybody safe by all these special operations guys being everywhere,
Right.
So,
are those people that lost all their property, in the aftermath? People that got their cars jacked, their businesses burned. Like, are they going to get reimbursed for that?
No. That's like I posted a picture of a guy. I think I was somewhere outside of Colima. His truck was burned and put across a roadway. That was his sole source of income for him and his family of 4. Nobody is going to pay him back for the truck that these cartel guys strewn across the road and burned.
Right.
We also saw a bunch of communities being abandoned during these events because of the violence. So nobody's going to house any of these people. There's no Mexican cartel FEMA jumping in there and like, oh, we're going to house you in this new region now,
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bunch of people displaced. There's a bunch of people losing everything. There's a bunch of Americans that lost their vacation. Costco lost a giant store in Puerto Vallarta.
I know, I saw that.
Dude, which was pretty funny. Why Costco? Costco. Let's imagine this new generation cartel guy out there. It's like, what can we burn? And he sees Costco, like, Costco. Let's go burn
So
Costco.
Infante Super a la verga de Costco. Well, that's a big you to Mexicans to burn a Costco.
Dude,
You've been to a Costco? It's all Mexicans. It's like burning Disneyland, dude.
Dude, it was a blow, I guess. But I don't. That's what I see. Like it's a country divided in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
different people reacting to it differently. Most Mexicans have had it with this bullshit. We're done. We're like the cool cartel thing and like. Dude, so we're done. Like most Mexicans are done with it. Right. We're also done with the looming threat of, American war and intervention. That's something that has a lot of Mexicans with a lot of anxiety. They don't welcome it. Most Mexicans do not welcome any of that. Although there's some politicians out there screaming for intervention by the United States. But most people just are aware that it's a rock in a hard place.
Yeah. Totally.
Either things stay the way they are, or we make a deal with the devil, which is how they view it,
And they're not wrong, really.
Mexico close, far from heaven, but close to the United States is the whole joke that Mexicans say,
So what becomes of the drug routes? I mean, this is a stupid question, but is anything disrupted? Okay, that's good.
I don't see anything disrupted. I see a weakened Mayisa in some of the northwestern side of the country. Really? Because of some of these arrests during the Bacanora raids. I see a weakened Mayisa, which means that there is a stronger Chapiza and four-letter organization in the area. So that hasn't really, the needle hasn't moved much on that end.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's moved towards in favor of the four letters and La Chapiza, I think.
As long as they have good drug traffickers, like we were talking off camera, you were just up in Canada giving doing a lecture, knife training, talking to cops, whatever you do, whatever the f- is you do. Fire spinning. As long as they have good drug traffickers, which are now mostly comprised of Americans and Canadians, right?
Yeah.
Gringos. As long as they have those, the organizations will always be fine.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that just move it for them. They're the ones that just help them move it into the country. And
So the difference is now it used to be that the government had a spooky man that lived in the hills in Jalisco that he could point to, but now it's like, but his son-in-law was in Riverside living comfortably, and the daughter was had a chilaquiles place.
Yeah.
And wait a minute, this isn't really the Jalisco cartel. This is like the California cartel. Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. They're all living. Wait, what's going? So I think what we're seeing is that this whole, and this is something I've been talking about for years. This concept that Americans have of these scary cartels out in the hills in Mexico. That's bullshit. El Mayo learned all his tradecraft in L.A. from a Cuban CIA guy, and El Mencho learned most of his tradecraft in prison in California, in Texas, I think.
No, California. You're right.
In California. So these are American-made, manufactured individuals in schools, and now a lot of these guys, thinking ahead, had their kids in the United States, and a lot of their empresa or their business is in the United States. I mean, whatever, build the wall higher, build the wall downward so you avoid tunnels and all that shit. Do all of that. I think we're moving into the evolution of these organizations being very much in bed and in the United States proper. They're already there. Mm-hmm. You're seeing them now diversify, and now you have Chinese interests mixing with these other Mexican interests, and you're seeing the Hindus getting into it on the northern side.
Big time. Those trashy Canadian Hindus, they all own trucking companies. And the truckers, if you own the trucking companies, you make more money than the boss practically, because you name your price. These guys dispatch people. They have 30, 40, 50 truck drivers. Most of them know what's up, right? Yeah. Or they have an idea that they're carrying dirty cargo, but they have deniability, and they'll just be like, "Oh, there's a truck waiting for you. There's a container in Colima," and they'll drive from Brampton, Ontario, literally all the way down to Manzanillo, Mexico, in Colima State, and drive all the way back up. And it's usually getting through, dude. And so it's the guy. It's all logistics.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing that like really caught my eye when I was in Toronto, all the empty apartments.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
and it's not just the economy, is it?
No, it's shit ton of empty apartments. It's the same thing everywhere where you go, and there's a giant drug market and or like, you know, where else do you see a lot of these empty apartment buildings, you know?
Right. Vancouver, BC, wherever you have a lot of Chinese too.
Yeah. Tijuana.
That's right. That's right.
A lot of those apartment buildings going up there, dude, they're empty. And people are like, wait a minute, how are they building all these? For who? And why are most of these empty? Park. Illicit money being parked long term. It's fine. I think the drug war is working. I think cartels are on their way out. I think we're about to achieve victory over all of these organizations.
Higher ed for your conference.
Scruff, McGruff, Chicago, Illinois, and all that shit. Yeah.
What happened in Baja? What happened? 30 state cops just got arrested in Tijuana.
Oh, that's. I haven't really read into that much. I've been asking around about it, but I imagine that it might have something to do with some of these major restaurants, La Majisa, and some of the people that they were basically had on the payroll.
Yeah.
I imagine that's probably it. Mexicali specifically is the historic base of operations for state police. Ask me how I knew. Ask me how I know. But that is usually where the nexus point happens between members of La Majisa and the Sinaloa cartel. Historically, that's where people get pulled into the whole scheme. So
that makes perfect sense. We just talked to a Maisa guy on this show, and he's from Mexicali, and it's all Maisa there.
It's there. When I was active, it was a Sinaloa enterprise. So you had people from all of that organization. But now it's fragmented because of the same organization is now fragmented. Mm-hmm. So it's a free for all there. Mm-hmm. But this again, the federal government is seemingly moving with intention, specifically against Los Mayos in that region. Right. And again, we could say that it's because they're being strategic and they're trying to eliminate this group first and then the other one. Or we can listen to El Gafe when he would talk about how they were basically working for the Sinaloa cartel, eliminating their enemies. But I don't know. Like, I don't know what exactly is going on. I'm too disconnected, too many head injuries.
Yeah, you don't know anything, dude.
I don't know anything.
Higher ed. Well, buddy, it's been great to see you. Thank you for dispelling some of the myths. As I said, people get very angry when you bring up something online and they don't agree with it.
I think you are a comedian. You're a very funny one, and I love your commentary, and I like what you're doing with it. I think we need more shit talking needs to be allowed. I think. Yeah. Sometimes you make me nervous about some of the ways you talk shit, who you talk shit to, but I guess the little hats. I have no idea what you're referencing, but
just being silly, Ed.
I'm just like all of the blessings and all the protections that my spiritual practices have towards you. Hopefully nothing happens. Hopefully we're all fine, and hopefully this is the end of the drug war and everybody's going to be healthy. And dude,
yeah,
this is the end of all wars. We're here. We're here, Johnny.
Hey, we're here, guys. Buy Bitcoin and hide. That's what I think personally.
Deep, high deep. Get some gold bars in there as well.
Yeah, gold bars for sure.
Get some cardio, stop smoking, learn nomadic lifestyles, get some training, get some guns.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a city kid, but I think getting out of the cities too is probably recommended. Or what do you think? Do you think it's more sketchy in the rural areas? I don't know.
So do you want me to give you some life advice for people out there with this current this stage of get more than one passport. It's pretty easy. I have 3. Get more than one passport.
What's your third one?
Don't worry about it.
Fair.
Get more than one passport. Figure out things of value versus things of symbolic value. Mm-hmm. So on my end, I like property, land, and gold, and some crypto. I don't put all my eggs in that crypto basket, but it's interesting. Mm-hmm. Health is amazing. You know what will f you up? You can have all the crypto in the world and all that shit, but all of a sudden, man,
you're like, holy shit,
I can't walk. Yeah. No, so dude, health is the most valuable thing in the world. Have friends all over the place. The world is friendly. The governments are not friendly to each other, but people are. I have expat community friends everywhere, and I'm not alone anywhere. I have options. And finally, I think realizing that the whole time and space where it's going to blow over.
Yeah, this too shall pass.
Turn that shit off. We're in for a ride.
So this won't pass.
This one, no. We're in one of those stages of history where like the dildos will come out.
Yes, the dildos will come out, dude.
The dildo of consequence rarely comes lubed, and I think it's the dildo of consequence era.
Right. Yeah, it's coming home to roost. The light will always, the light and what is right and good will always win out, but the demons. The God is in a battle with the demons right now.
Sure.
But Ed, if you ever fall asleep around me, dude, know the dildos literally are coming out. So don't sleep, dog.
Anything is a dildo if you're brave enough. Any app is a dating app if you're Indian enough. And anything is edible once. I live by these rules, so just I'll fall asleep whenever I want.
Fair enough, dude. Well, follow Manifest Radio podcast. Follow Ed's 3 Instagram accounts now. Sometimes they get taken down by Instagram, and they usually come back. But Ed's Manifesto at Instagram, and then can plug the Telegram group one more time. I want to check that out.
Rotten.mx. Rotten.mx. I'm sorry. I don't run it. We have people just putting stuff there. So
it's quite entertaining though. But yeah, you got to limit that shit. It's like porn, dude. It'll suck you in, those cartel assassination videos.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. The one, the only, my man, Ed Calderon, right here in the Connect with Johnny Mitchell. We'll see you next time. Peace.